Alright, so everybody knows that not all insurance companies are created equal. But what you might not know is that there are two big categories of insurance companies that are extremely important for you having the best possible experience. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Hey folks, I am James Jenkins, Chief Risk Officer of RiskWell, and this video is part of the Real Estate Investor Insurance Academy brought to you by RiskWell. And I should say that although this is recorded as a part of the REI Insurance Academy, it just as easily could apply to RiskWell as well for anyone who is buying insurance and wants to have a great experience. So on this video, we're going to take a look at the screen share. We're going to talk about the differences between an admitted carrier and a non-admitted, sometimes called surplus carrier. You might want to roll your eyes back in your head and think this is super dull and boring, but I promise you it's incredibly important stuff that may mean the difference between a great claim experience and a bad one. So let's jump into the screen share, and as always, if you want a copy of these slides, I'll be happy to share them with you. Look forward to your questions and comments later on. So let's jump into the screen share. All right, admitted carriers versus surplus lines carriers. We're going to talk about admitted carriers first. This is basically where the big boys play. Most of the names that you have heard of, all of your standard markets, your State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, Nationwide, Liberty Mutual, etc., all of them are in the admitted space. Everybody that has the big TV commercials and the radio budgets and whatnot, this is where all of them are. Now, an admitted carrier is regulated by a state department of insurance. Insurance as an industry is regulated at the state level, and they are required by a state department of insurance to abide by certain financial and fiduciary standards. This means that they also have to file their rates with the State Department of Insurance and get approval. You may not know it, but your insurance company, when they want to issue a rate change across the board, has to file that rate with the State Department of Insurance and get approval before they roll out the rate changes. Also, they typically have in-house billing, claim support, and loss control services. All of this is packaged together within the carrier, and it's very easy to hold them accountable if they become bad actors, if they don't play like they're supposed to. So that's the admitted carrier as a category. The non-admitted carrier, commonly referred to as surplus carrier, is typically for higher risk accounts and specialty types of business that don't fit into standard insurance markets. I'm looking at you, pest control services, roofing companies, non-standard auto on the personal line side for people that have a whole bunch of losses. This is typically where surplus lines carriers have most of their business. Now, one of the big things to be aware of is the policies are not all the same. A lot of them are not written on the standard ISO, Insurance Services Office forms. We're getting way into the weeds on that, so I'm going to leave the forms out of this conversation. Just know that an admitted carrier typically has a base policy of ISO, and everything else is kind of built on top of that for company specifics. In the surplus lines world, doesn't really work that way. It's kind of the Wild West, and they can do whatever they want. The pricing can also vary widely, and surplus lines carriers typically are not regulated at the state level and don't have to get approval for their rates. So you can see extreme fluctuations in rate from one company to another because they aren't regulated like admitted carriers are. You may very well have a fragmented or disjointed client experience. A lot of these companies have third-party claims administrators. They don't have in-house billing where you have to either pay in full or go get a finance agreement to get your installments, which you typically get for free with an admitted carrier. A lot of times the underwriters are not just working with the carrier, but also the representing broker or general agent. Typically your agent, someone like me, your insurance agent or broker, does not have a direct relationship with the insurance carrier on the surplus side. As a broker, I have to go through a general agent or an intermediary to access a lot of these carriers. So there's also another layer of complexity there. It's also very difficult to hold these carriers accountable if they become a bad actor because they are not regulated by the state Department of Insurance. They don't pay into the guarantee fund, and if a surplus lines carrier goes insolvent and is unable to pay claims, which happens often, unfortunately, especially with large catastrophic events, then you basically don't have anywhere to turn. There is no guarantee fund for the non-payment of claims. So what are some conclusions we can draw from this information? The first and foremost is obviously you want to use an admitted carrier whenever possible. There's a big difference between admitted and non-admitted. Sometimes for some lines of business there's not an available admitted carrier. There's a lot of times when you have to use a surplus lines carrier because no admitted carrier is willing to accept the business. If you're in a high-risk situation and you've got a lot of losses in your history, you probably are forced to use a surplus lines carrier. You're going to want to ask your insurance agent or broker about the company that they're recommending. Specifically, ask about financial performance, about their reserve capital, what's their AM Best financial rating. Demotech and AM Best are the two common rating bureaus that will rank the carrier based on their solvency, based on their ratio of assets to liabilities. Those are very important numbers, especially if you're in commercial insurance and you want to make sure that you're trusting your business with a solid performing, well financially invested carrier. Because if you're not, then you never know what's going on. When you hear someone say A-rated carrier, what they mean is that AM Best, the rating bureau, has decided that they are A-rated or better, meaning that they have a good ratio of assets to liabilities as well as a good track record of paying claims. You're going to want to take a look at their Department of Insurance complaints if you're wondering if a carrier is going to be a good choice or not. This may very well be best obtained by the Department of Insurance directly. You can ask your agent or broker for help with that. It's also very important that you know your rights. If you get in a situation where a claim doesn't go like you want it to, you do have the option of hiring a public claims adjuster to represent your case and take a look at it. Please contact your agent or broker or my office if you need assistance in locating a quality public adjuster, because a lot of them are snakes and swindlers, and they will take a large portion of your claim. Public adjusters are kind of in the same boat as personal injury trial attorneys and used car salesmen as far as their general reputation goes, and unfortunately it's well earned a lot of times. And lastly, you are free to choose your own financial premium finance company, and you can, as I said, select a public adjuster if you want to, and that's about it. That's really it there. Questions, comments, love your feedback on this. It's a bit of a dry topic, admittedly, but it's very important that you understand the difference between an admitted carrier and a surplus lines or non-admitted carrier. It can be a totally different experience from one to the other. Look forward to your feedback here, and if you have any questions, please reach out to us. This stuff's there on the screen, riskwell.com/consultation. You can call our office at 469-678-8001 and email us at info@riskwell.com. Last thing I'll just say is if you're getting value from these videos, please consider subscribing to the channel, like the video, and ring the bell for notifications. And that's all for this video. We look forward to seeing you next time. Please remember, boys and girls, life is risky. Risk well.